We are doing part 2 of our Endor dio. Part 1 was basically showing you how we created and painted our platform. We showed you how we went through and we molded a tree. We're going to do some different trees in this dio using the same principles as the first demo that we did. So basically what we've done is we've taken this principle, we hot glued a couple of pieces of foam together, we carved into it. This is going to be a stand-up tree. We're also going to use today a 1/4 inch thick piece of styrofoam. We are going to mount these on. We're going to add some roots to this. We're going to carve it out. And these are going to be some bases that can move around that you put little foliage on and stuff to kind of give it some thickness. Another thing that we're going to do today is we're going to show you we save all of our scraps. So like this was a piece that we, buried out when we were doing a cave. Lay that down, carve into it. Looks like a huge piece of split tree. Add foliage onto it. It's another piece that can add you some dimension. Again, we save all of our pieces. This is going to mold into another straight up tree. And then we're going to show you, again, we keep everything. So we have like these little, you buy lamps or you buy whatever, things are packed. And we're going to show you how to kind of mold some things out of this that can be interesting. So hang in there, give me 2 seconds to clean up, and we'll get started. All right, guys, our heat wand is on. First thing we're going to start with today is we are just going to take an old random piece that's still flat. If it's not 100% flat and it's kind of falling, don't worry about it because we're going to build this into a platform. Heat wand is on. Again, you just don't want too many crazy edges. You got to kind of get this rounded. So right now what we're doing is we're just going to hack into this and kind of just round up some of those protruding edges. Super easy, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. This is just going to be a huge piece of tree that kind of split. We're doing carving, then we're going to go back in, carve the actual bark into the tree, and trim up some stuff. And then we're going to go through, paint it, and then we're going to start doing some groundwork, which is really kind of fun, and the whole reason for this dio in particular. But I want to show you guys this in case you haven't seen the first. We're just killing all of those big waffles, any holes, anything that looks like it's too square. Dig into it. This one we're going to kind of keep the base a little thick, and we are going to narrow up the top edges here. And we're just doing kind of some rough cuts here because at the end of the day what we're going to do is when we have our other heat wand, I'm going to go in and I'm going to mold and shape these a little bit more and you'll see. Okay, great. Carved. Let's kill that part there. Fine. Carved for the most part. We're gonna hold off on that. Next, talking about how you can get these things, whatever you have. I keep everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into, this is a larger version of it, right? What I've done is I've already cut this and I've molded the outsides to kind of make this look round, and this will be a hollowed out tree. We're going to do some leaves and some trees on here. Really kind of cool because if you have an old, another log, you can put this on it, give some dimension. You can move this around. It's kind of cool. Quick way of how we did that. We literally just going to take our heat wand and we're going to kind of cut right into it. Let's do one where I don't screw it up. We use this one. I'm just going to cut into it. Great. We already have kind of our curved inside, which is cool. You could do this from scratch if you don't have these just by putting a couple of pieces together. And we're literally just going to kind of round this off. And again, the next stage with the heat wand, you'll see how we're going to make this look more like a tree, but this is just the basic. Let's dig into this a little bit more. All right, not too much to that. Kind of cool. We'll add our bark in, and that's another thing that we're doing. Now, one more thing. We're going to do a big tree that is like a backdrop that's kind of leaning and kind of falling, and it's just going to be a big kind of centerpiece that you can move around and play with. Got a couple of pieces of scraps left over, 1 inch thick. We're going to just kind of hot glue these together to make them some dimension, and we're going to sculpt them. So here we go. Little hot glue gun. Great. And we're going to do smaller piece, smaller piece, smaller piece, smaller piece. Let's do one of these on here. And then we're going to sculpt it, and we're going to dig into it. Okay, great, like that. The other side, we're going to flip it, add a smaller piece to it here. Let's just make sure this stands up on its own. Yep, it does. So, there you go. Now let's start carving into it. Heat wand. I'm literally just cutting off some of these square edges. This one's going to need more attention and be dug out with another tool that I'll show you in 2 seconds. Again, things don't have to be super perfect. It's nature. And you're just kind of getting the base of rounding it up. And then you'll go back in with your other heating tools and you'll really do the trick. Now for up here, we're going to just give it kind of like a jagged cut because it is, you know, a tree that's been split. The other half has fallen somewhere, so let's get rid of this. Okay, great. You still have this back part. Let's round this up a little bit. Not too much because you're going to go dig in and hollow this out. Okay, here's the basis of this. Now let's, give me 2 seconds, we'll play some more. This particular heat wand has this kind of cool buried, wrap that you can heat up and dig in and carve. You can also use the sides of this to kind of firm it up. We have another one. If you don't have this, you can still just kind of burrow into it using this thing. Or you can use the other tool that I'm going to show you in 2 seconds. So we're turning it on. Now basically what we're going to do is this is going to be the hollow part back here. So I'm literally just going to go up at an angle. I think it takes a second for this bad boy to heat up. Yep. You can also just kind of pull this out and it becomes big slivers in the tree. It's kind of cool. Once this gets heated up, it'll really kind of go through it a lot quicker. But I'm very impatient. Okay. And then when we go through, I'm gonna start painting these up. I will just speed through that so you don't have to watch it. I'll keep it in case you guys want to just kind of see the process. But again, this is gonna just add some dimension to it and make it not look like it is a bunch of cardboard that's been stuck together. Or not cardboard, but you know what I mean, styrofoam. Feel free to fast forward. Or feel free to watch if you want. Oops. Oh well. Keep going. Don't worry about it. You want to kind of keep carving into this. Remember, you're doing a circular thing, so you're basically hollowing out the inside of this tree. and you can pose it on your diorama either way, showing the hollowed out oversized piece, or you can stage it on the other side. Just Endor, if you remember on those long shots, had some pretty big, larger than life trees, and that's kind of what we're going for. And we're going to mix in some of the smaller stuff. We're also going to kind of use this and just start kind of rounding this up and hollowing this out. And don't worry about all these little lines that are kind of showing up. We're going to fix those again with a heat wand right after we're done. Make sure you don't get too close to that edge. You don't want this too thin. Now here you're like, wait a minute, this still looks like a bunch of stuff heat together. So we're just going to go through and just make this a big missing piece of the tree. A big hole, big split. We'll go in and we'll carve it up with our heat wand once we're done. Do the same here. Nothing too exact, too random. You can kind of wiggle it around, stop short if you want. Remember, nothing too perfect in nature. And then also, you'll notice that as this gets hot, it's kind of burning these waffles. That's okay. It's just giving you more texture. You're going to use that. It'll look like bark once we get done with it, and that'll be kind of cool. All right, I think that this is in a kind of an okay place to start using our other tool. Let's just kind of clean some of these up a little bit. Maybe we'll pull some in here. All right. Oh, we lost a little part there. We can fix that with a glue gun, not a big deal. Alrighty, you will be a tree. That's the last thing I do. Okay, let's pull out some of that extra. Great, so now let's go into our heat wand and start giving some texture before we paint. Alright guys, our heat wand is on. Remember what we're going to use is we're going to use the sides of this to kind of start melting and shaping. We're going to use the tips of this to kind of dig in, make some bark patterns. Let's do it. All right, let's start with our big tree. So for this, you still have a lot of kind of like square edges. We're just gonna kind of go over this and let it melt. It's not fully hot yet, but you know. Use the tips, start from the bottom, kind of pull up. Nothing too perfect. You can kind of dig in there smaller. Do some little loop-de-loops there for different kind of like bark patterns. Just drag it across, give it some texture. Use the sides to kind of round and burn. This, when it's not hot enough, like I'm doing it right now, and you drag it across, it's going to actually start pulling off the beads of the styrofoam. So we're going to hold off on that and come back. This only takes a few minutes to heat up, but we're just going to keep this going. Any of these like protruding, these holes where you see these seams, once this gets fully hot, we're just going to kind of dig into that and make it look like it is, you know, just a split in the tree that happens. We can go back in also right before we finalize this project, and we can add roots to the tree and kind of put them in there and make it look cool. So I am going to speed through the rest of this so you can kind of see what it looks like once we've carved all of these. Do the same thing on all of these pieces, and then we'll start. basically carving out our trees, and we've added in all of like our bark details. Took a minute. It's going to take a minute to paint these too, but before we start painting, we're actually going to take a thinner sheet. You can do it as thick as you want, but for this diorama, I'm actually going to do a few, so I want it to be kind of small. This is going to serve as a platform to mount some of my trees. Also going to be where I do a lot of my plant and groundwork. So I have my heat wand. I'm literally just going to start cutting out some squares. Nothing too perfect. Just do a big one here. Okay, so make sure that they're big enough for you to mount your tree on. Yep, that one looks good. We're going to mount this bad boy. Yep, that looks good. We're going to mount this guy, so we're going to need a little bit bigger of a piece. So let's just hack into it with our wands. Okay. Nothing too perfect. Now we're going to take our hot glue gun and we're going to start propping these guys up. So, heat the base. Awesome if you have glue sticks in it. Sorry, give me 1 second. Okay. Alright, just mount that sucker on there. Don't worry about where it's positioned. We're going to carve the base up to fit what we want to do with it. Okay, we're going to take this. Yep. Okay. Great. And one more. Okay, cool. So that's actually kind of cool where we carved at the end. So there's going to be like a gap in there. We'll fill it in with some bushes and things coming out. You'll see. All right, now we have our bases. We're going to fire up our heat wand. And we're just going to kind of cut these in like some random shapes so that they do not look like small pieces of styrofoam. And we're going to kind of just round this down, give it a little dimension. Cut off any edges that you don't like. Don't worry too much if there's waffles and things in there because we're going to cover it all up with stucco and faux grass and all that kind of good stuff. But we're just doing some random cuts. We're keeping the base big enough so that it will stand up on its own. But nothing too wacky. Big enough you can put a rock on there and have a little fun there. Cool, cool, cool. Alright. Alright, I'm into it. And last but not least. Okay. All right, there we go. So this will be on our platform. Now I am going to start painting. Okay, guys, we're going to start painting. Quick reminder, what we're doing here. We're going to use some browns. We're going to use some what the hell color is this? It's like a brown yellow and a little bit. We're going to use some blacks. We actually are using this super dark black for our inside of our trees to really kind of give it some dimension so it looks like it's really further back. I don't know if you guys have seen this. We're trying it for the first time. It's actually really cool. It's a non-reflective black. I think you've probably seen it all over Instagram and stuff, but the people that paint like holes and stuff on the floor and people don't know that it's not a real hole. It's kind of funny. But it really does work for pushing it back because it doesn't catch any light. So it looks like that goes really far back, and I dig it. So we're just going to keep hitting these with mixtures. I'm going to do a quick wash over everything. Then we're going to go back over it. Now, this is still not done. We're going to hit it with some grays and some things to kind of create barks. We're going to hit it with some stucco. We're going to add leaves on it. We're going to do a lot of stuff. I'm going to just do a really super quick paint speed dry. You can watch if you want. And fast forward. Guys, so pretty cool, right? I'm gonna let these dry, but just kind of show you where we're at. Everything's kind of still wet. I gotta go back in and rework some stuff, but I think for a first pass, it's pretty cool. We're gonna add some green, some groundwork, all that good stuff. We'll be back in a minute. All right, guys. So we've gone through. We've mounted our trees onto our platforms. Now is more of the fun stuff. So what we're going to do is that we are going to build onto these little platforms. We're going to use some of our stucco that has all the little specks in it. Looks like dirt, and we're going to just start layering some of this on here and building up mounds of dirt and things that have kind of built up around the trees. So it's going to just add another dimension. I'm literally just going to scoop some of this out because this one's almost done, and I'm just going to kind of layer it on, and then we'll fix it with a paintbrush when we're done. But just so you can kind of see the process, this is where we're going to put some moss. We're going to add trees and things around this, but this is just going to give it like one more layer of dimension, so it's not just a piece that's sitting there. Do a little on the back, and then we're going to go through again. This isn't a dead forest. I mean, the trees look pretty badass in my opinion, but we're going to add some more greens to it. We're going to add foliage. We're going to do all that stuff. So right now I'm just going through, as you can see, frosting a cake, if you will. All right, do a few on these guys. This tree kind of turned out really cool. I'm all into it. Right. This is also a chance, like if you have any painting issues or you have any like hot glue issues or anything that kind of happened on your base, this is another way to kind of cover it up too and make it look like it's a little more legit. Okay. All right. Not going to get too crazy. Same thing. You can also take this and fill it in on some of your flat logs too. And it'll be like just a mound of dirt and things that have kind of built on top of it. Because remember, there's forests and layers, and we're going to go back through and we'll add our leaves and we'll do all that kind of cool stuff. I think I killed this bucket of stucco. Thank God I have a backup one. But we're just going to do this really quick so you can kind of see what the process is again. Same principle as the desert dio. If you didn't see the desert dio, we use this stuff for almost everything. It's really great because it takes paint. So we're going to do this. We're going to do a little brown, a little black, acrylics. I'm going to hit it with kind of a flat brush like that. It absorbs water. So for this part, I'm just going to really kind of mix my paint. Once this dries, we're going to hit it with a hair dryer, and then we're going to whisk over it in a lighter green and give some cool dimension, and then we'll go over it with our moss colors. So see, I'm really just dabbing this. I'm picking at it so that it stands up and doesn't just mend in there. It kind of looks like it's another dimensional layer. The little black, you don't want anything to look too natural, so blacks and browns and all that kind of fun stuff. This is moss buildup. This will be really kind of cool. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to go over it again in another layer of color. This is just giving you something to be able to whisk over, if you will, with a lighter color and give like some cool dimension. Let it kind of sneak over the side. Makes it just look like it's a kind of a cooler base and not just flat. If you start losing too much stuff, add some more water to it. And just kind of tapping. You want to just get color all over that white. Okay. This is kind of cool. If you push it up against the base, it kind of just looks like stuff that is built up around the base and is kind of shifting off. You'll see. Can you even see that? Yep. Okay. And we are still new at this YouTube channel thing, but whatever. We're just doing this for the people who follow us, who like it, and hopefully this inspires you to do some things. Hopefully this will give you some ability to create cooler stuff. All right. Get a little more paint on here. And you could also, I mean, you could do this in like a moss green. You could do this in different colors if you don't want to do this additional stage. We are going to add the moss greens and things on top of this once it dries as like a high point. If you want to skip this, you can. I just like the idea of it looking like there's mud. We also, you know, you could, if you have clay, you could do like some really cool roots and hot glue them to the base of this tree. We did that in our Dagobah, and it added like another cool dimension that you can kind of go on top of and layer stuff in. But again, this is just mud buildup that's been there for a minute. If you get a little up there, it's okay. We still have to go over this with our greens and our grays to make our bark look like bark. This is actually really turning out good. Every time that I do like a commission, this is a commission for somebody who's kind enough to let me sit here and take my time and do it on YouTube. But I always like do these new techniques, and I'm like, damn, why am I getting rid of this? Because this looks a hell of a lot better than the Endor that I'm doing. And so far, I think that this is actually my favorite Endor that I've done. I think these trees look pretty badass. If you get any up there, that's okay. Just touch it up. Just killing all that white. And if you don't get it all, you're going to have another opportunity after this dries to mess with it. Okay. Oops, we got a little up there. That's fine. We're just going to... Don't worry. You'll be mossed in a second. I'm not worried about it. All right. All right. There. Now I'm going to hit this bad boy with a hairdryer, and then I'll be back in a minute, and we'll talk about doing some additional colors and then layering on some plants. Guys, we're back. We've gone through, added our stucco. We hit it with a hairdryer. We did some on the base. It kind of looks cool. It makes it look like it's you know, part of the tree, dirt, what have you. Now it's kind of part for the fun. It's time for the fun-er part. We are going to hit this with a little light green and some grays, and we're going to use a dry brush. We're really going to water this down almost to nothing because we want it just to kiss. We're going to build layers on, but right now basically what we're going to do is we're going to add like some you know, some moldy colors and go over it as we kind of see fit. So I'm literally taking my dry brush and I am drying most of the paint off of it. And I am going to start picking some spots here, and I'm just going to wave over, and I'm going to hit some of those high parts with the brush. And we are creating bark and we're creating, green growth. Endor's really green. So we'll do different layers, different types of greens going up. You can also, I've done this where I spray it in a water bottle, and I just spray it with like a different color green too. Really, really watered down so that it's, kind of just penetrates into the existing colors that you have. You don't want anything too crazy, but there's definitely some moss and some green growing here. You can go back over it with some other colors, darker if you want. Now, this part that we added in our stucco, same principle. We're just going to kind of whisk over it. We're going to just pick up some of those high parts that are protruding out with that lighter green to make it kind of pop. And the green's going to kind of work up. Hit a little bit on your base on the corners here. We are going to put some grass and some things down, but again, one more layer that kind of just makes everything blend in together with our base is cool. And if you do go too heavy at this stage, you can always wipe it off. You can always let it dry, go back over it with brown paint and do it again. You can always water it down. That's why we mix our acrylics with water, so that we have some room to grow. Some of these top places, I'll just hit this with some darker green in a little bit, but I'm just going to kiss this at the very tip so you can kind of see. Just giving it some highs and lows so it looks like you can really see the definition in there. Same with the top here. Just gonna kind of whisk over it. I love this. This is so much fun. I love Endor. I love the trees. It's a lot of work. This one I've taken more time on than I have in any of my other ones. This one's taken me up probably a couple of days off and on. That's why I said at the beginning of the tutorial, like, don't get stressed out to do this. You can do a couple of trees in a day if you want to, but I'm doing a really kind of complex, lots of trees. So this one's taking me a little longer, but it's going to be worth it. You'll see. All right. And again, I'm just kind of kissing those. I'm whisking my brush, and I'm just kind of kissing some of those spots. All right, I think that's good. This is going to dry a lot lighter. You're literally just given hints of what you want right now, and then you're going to go over with darker greens and things here. But I mean, this tree's pretty cool as it is, but we're just going to pick up some of those darker highlights. Get a little in there, a little at the bottom. All right, guys, so you kind of get the gist of it. I'm gonna go through, do this, add a few more hits, and then we're gonna come back and plant some stuff. All right, guys, now we are going over it with a brighter green, more of a forest kind of green, if you will. I'm doing it in a very watered down pattern. Hang on, let me just mix this bad boy up. Literally, really super watered down. You're still kind of dabbing it, but if it's watered down and it's dripping, it's okay, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it from the base, grab the base of these guys, and we're just going to kind of start whisking up, because remember, this is a super green. It's not a dead forest, it's a live forest. So I'm literally just kissing some of these spots and pulling up from the bottom, because that's moss is growing up. So see, like our lighter shades are kind of kissing up. Here we go, where the growth is going up the tree. Again, super light. This looks really bright probably right now. It will dry and look a lot more convincing. So again, really watered down. Just a kiss of this green. Down at the bottom, pull up. Down at the bottom, pull up. Don't get too crazy, but give it a few hits. It's okay if it drips. It's going to dry and look cool. This is literally just moss and stuff growing up, or algae. Algae, is that how they say it? Algae. All right. You can work it in some of your dark spots, just kind of kissing it up. You're hitting some of your high points here. Yep, a little bit. Dab on into those crevices. You're giving the feeling of super green. Pulling up. You can hit a little on the top and some of your dark spots too. There's some moss and stuff growing up there. Kind of tap it in. All right, yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Let's do it on a few more. Pulling up from the bottom. It's growing up. Super watered down. You get any bright spots like that where it looks too much, no problem, just work it in, water it down. Right now everything's still kind of wet. You just dab it and base it in, keep pulling it up and shifting it up. Oh, a little too bright there. That's okay. All right, cool. All right, I'm gonna do this a few more times and then I'll come back. All right, guys, we're at my most favoriteest part ever, doing all of the grass and trees. So we bought a couple different things. I got this at Michael's. It's like grass that you can pull off of here. I use it to kind of like, I cut pieces and I stage it. This is going to be for 6-inch scale. It could be 3.75, but you know, some of these palm leaves we got, we're going to stage these out. We're going to kind of use the smaller ones because of course you don't want like, you know, super huge palm fronds and things next to people. It's supposed to be 6-inch scale. We also have some of these little small things we got on Amazon. We have some mossy rocks. We'll scatter those in. We have our real peat moss. We're going to dust that over lightly afterwards. And then, I don't know if you remember, but in video number 1, we cut up and made our own leaves and soil. So this is going to be a part of it too. So give me 2 seconds and let's start. Okay, here we go. So let's start building some of the greenage on the bottom of our platform. I'm just going to use hot glue for this. I use rubber cement because where I'm going to start with really is just kind of dusting some leaves on the bottom, and then I'll build on top of it, and then I'll add stuff as I need. But I love kind of doing stuff in layers. So I'm literally, you know, I don't want everything to be completely covered, but I'm literally just going to pick some spots and just start dusting. So I'm going to take my cut up leaves I did. I'm going to go and just kind of scatter them over the glue. We're gonna do this. Remember, this is all gonna sit on the base that we did too. So we'll blend it in once we get to that part. But a little here. Do some on the back side. Some kind of hanging off the top. Doesn't have to be super perfect. Okay. Some of this is going to fall off, and you can press it in and dust it in. You can go over it if you want. That's kind of the beginning of our leaves. I'm going to go ahead while I'm here, and I'm going to start hiding a few of these small things. Now, these look really, really bright. They are. You can go over them with acrylics and repaint them. I always go through. I don't like anything to look too perfect. So some of these, there's like 2 or 3 different sizes in here that you can play with, but I'll go through if I'm using a lot, and I'll trim them up so that they don't look like, oh, I'm, the same thing that's sitting next to me on the other side, if that makes sense. But nothing too perfect, right? So I have my crevice in here. That's going to be kind of cool to put some plants kind of digging out, right? So I'm going to start in here, and I'm literally, this is styrofoam, so I'm just going to push it right through, hot glue it in. All right. I'm going to do one of these bigger leaves kind of coming out, growing out from underneath this. Underneath here. That would be kind of cool, right? You can kind of trim things up and move things around. When I sell this diorama, I also include a couple of sheets of this so that you can kind of fill in and build, how you need it. You can do your own thing as well as what I give you. So that's kind of cool. So, all right. So you kind of get the gist of it. Let me get some more glue sticks going here. And we're just going to kind of keep going until we think that it looks like it's full enough. Okay. Why is this one fucking tree giving me a problem? Just because you guys are here, I guess, right? Hang on. All right, well, this one can go back in 2 seconds. Party foul. Sometimes you do have to poke holes in this for this stuff. I don't know why I thought I'd just hot glue that and it'd be really cool, but so I'm poking a hole in the styrofoam so it has a little room to go. I also have some of these trees that are pretty cool that have wire in them so that you can kind of bend things around and make it not look so, standardized. So I'm going to go through and just kind of keep working some of this in. You don't want to go too crazy. You'll see. All right. Shorter, tried to make it look as real as we could. We placed some in crevices and cracks. You can keep going back in and working this. I'm not going to keep you watching too long, but we basically created these little bases. And again, because the trees are so huge, it's not about the full trees. It's about just the things that are kind of growing, and then, the foliage is up top. So this looks kind of cool. Now we're not fully done yet because we went through them. We now have our trees. I'm going to go through and probably hit some of these with some paints to make them not look as bright. Easier, just take washes of browns, take washes of different greens and kind of hit it so that it looks a little more random. One other thing that I am going to do is I'm going to add in some of my peat moss while I've got you guys here to kind of break it up and dust it. I'm going to trim some of this brown stuff off, right? Because The brown represents the dead stuff that's kind of laying on the ground. The green is the newer. So the brown stuff goes lower. The green stuff comes higher. It's awesome is having scissors before you do this. I don't know. I always feel like I'm so much more prepared than I probably really am. So I'm just going to use my little wire snips. But anyway, I'm going to just trim a few of these things off really quick, and I'll show you exactly what I'm doing. So I'm going to dust the bottom of this platform again with some of this brown stuff on top of my leaves to add one more kind of dimension and layer. Just going right over it. Just a little of this dust. Right, kind of work it in. Then I'm going to take my green peat moss, and that's going to go on the top. You can also work some of this into the actual tree itself, which I probably will, but so you kind of get it. Just like one more layer that kind of makes it look a little more cool. So I'm going to do some more of this, and then we'll kind of show you how to wrap this up. All right, guys, well, this is kind of just the gist of our Endor. So we went through and we, added in some additional leaving work and things on top of all of our rocks and our trees. We added in, some of our green life. We're going to go through and kind of rework a little bit of that. We have our base here. All these trees can kind of go before, after, blah, 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 blah. We still have our peat moss, and we have our leaves that we can scatter around once we place our figures and we need. But we always kind of give a few extra trees in here so that you can pull things in and pull things out as you need for whatever you're doing with it. We have our additional cave rocks and things that can kind of be staged all over, and I love it. I think it's great. We're going to add some more green mossy rocks and things into it, but right now this is the gist of it. So have fun with it. Go as high as you want with the trees, go as low as you want with the trees. Build this 2 or 3 platforms out. I mean, how cool is that? Like when it's all thick. I love it. I think it's cool. I hope this helped you. If you have any questions, add comments. May the force be with you. If you subscribe to us, please subscribe to us, actually, I should say, and hit the little like button and hit the subscribe button. And there's more of these to come. All right, guys. Bye.